Now here we stand and hover on the edge. We're just a drop in time. I feel like gave you every breath I had. Even forgave your crimes. I open my eyes. Tonight I feel like waking to
Welcome back to the Gfinity Summer Masters 2. My name is Lycan. With me, I have Bling, and once again joining us is Daishi, fresh off the caster desk. How you doing, Daishi?
I'm doing great. It was a funny game to cast to me.
Yeah, very happy to see your teammate make it through.
Yeah, of course, and I do have a lot of respect for him, so it's always good to see him perform in any events offline.
You got to give us a bit of history, actually. Why was there so much?
So much
animosity?
Tension? Yeah, like why
between Psionic and Marine Lords?
Yeah.
Well,
they didn't even shake hands, man. Like
we all like to troll each other in France. There is this. I told you about this competition between all the French players. I think between Marine Lord and Psionic, it's a bit more than that.
Yeah, that's what it comes across as. For sure.
It looks like a bit more.
It did, but then at the end, Psionic was like, good luck, smiley face, and all that stuff. So it seemed like at the end it was just a little bit of.
I think he's doing that. Nah, like people do that, like because you know that they don't like each other. Like you know he doesn't like you, so you're like super nice to him just to annoy him a little bit more.
Yeah.
The Muslim style.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, we have coming up next MyuNgSiK versus KeeN, and I think this is going to be a really exciting one. It's the two Koreans going head to head, and I think it's going to be great. It's a PvT, TVP, which can be extremely exciting. What do you think we're going to see out of the Protoss player?
I think we're going to see him win. I think my prediction's going to go on for sure. I know that he favored Phoenix Colossus kind of style for a long time. I'm not sure if he's too keen on that anymore. It's kind of fell out of fashion a little bit, but he's always been a crazy, wacky player anyway. So maybe he's going to throw it out there. I'm not sure, but I feel like after KeeN's performance yesterday, after his kind of cheesy, crazy-ish play didn't work so well for him, I think he's going to take more of a standard approach. And if anyone was to deviate away from that, it would be MyuNgSiK. So, yeah, we're going to have to see.
What do you think?
Well, I'm really looking forward for this match because I think that both of them had really tough run of eights. Both of them winning 2-1. Of course, KeeN was a big surprise. Lilbo, we all agree that he should have won 2-0, but KeeN is there, so yeah. And MyuNgSiK is a bit the same. He had to face so many cheeses from Uthermal that it was really tough for him as well, I think. And yeah, I think, as Blink said, they are not gonna go ham on each other, and apparently they are very, very good friends, and that's very interesting as well because they probably then practice a lot with each other in Korea, so they probably know each other a lot, and yeah, I'm wondering what they have in store.
What kind of style do you think we're going to see from MyuNgSiK?
Defensive style, macro style, like Blink said. I think they know each other too well to cheese during the first game at least.
Okay. And as far as things from KeeN, do you think we're going to see similar play against what like what he did to Lobo? Widow Mine drops, things like that.
Probably. I don't know much about KeeN's style, but he seems to be a very kind of defensive player. He doesn't overextend. He likes to do some poking around and never really commits, which I think isn't really good in TVP. You have to go for these crazy doom drops, I think, sometimes. And when he does it, I think he plays a lot on the mental part of the game. I think it was very interesting the last game against Lilbo when he said that he wanted to destroy him mentally. And then we saw Lilbo, who recently won WCS. He had 4K in bank, so I think he was broke mentally. So
He
it
definitely
probably
was.
worked. And as a player, Blink, I think, will agree, sometimes you just want to, I don't know, destroy your keyboard and leave the game, but you can't because you're in an offline tournament. Because this player is just destroying you mentally. Like when you're looking right, he's left. When you're looking left, he's right. And it's just insane to be playing against such a player.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be a really exciting matchup, especially with the players, just what they showed us yesterday. Let's go ahead and take a look at the maps that we're going to be seeing. Terraform, Iron Fortress, and Moonlight Madness. Those are going to be played out. That's the maps they chose. What do you think about Terraform for PVT?
I think it's a pretty straightforward map, actually. It can be a little bit scary with the doom drops like KeeN tried to do against Lilbo yesterday, but it's a pretty straightforward map out of the three. It's going to get crazier as the series goes on, which is funny to say because usually it kind of starts off crazy and then it's settled down a bit. But I don't think maps are really going to play a factor. I think the series would play out exactly the same regardless of what the maps were. I don't really think it's going to change too much.
You were talking about the drop style, Daishi, and you were talking about the Phoenix Colossi. It will be interesting to see if KeeN does go for the drop style.
See KeeN as well, yesterday in his series against Lilbo, he didn't actually play for the Vikingless style. He actually went for Vikings, which is a little bit more uncommon in today's meta. So that would work well against a Phoenix style if MyuNgSiK did actually choose to do that. So I guess that's one thing that's going for him. So there might be a little bit of mind games going into it, actually, if you take that into consideration from MyuNgSiK's side as well, because he needs to take that into account because KeeN is playing a style that isn't as commonly played anymore.
Yeah, yeah. So what are your predictions as far as what we're going to come out with? I know you want MyuNgSiK to win. What do you think the map variance is going to be?
2-0, man.
2-0?
Yeah. I'm backing my boy. I'm the only one that's been backing him from day one, and I'm going to continue that. And
Giving him your energy.
2-0, yeah.
All right. What do you think, Daishi?
I'm going to go for 2-1 for KeeN, actually. 2-1 for KeeN. I think MyuNgSiK is definitely going to take a map. It's going to be very close, but KeeN in the end, he has shown us that even when he's 40 supply behind against the Prolos, he can make it. So I think he will win. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You don't agree?
I don't agree with that, Daishi.
Nah, I feel like it. And the maps are, I think,
It's
good
just
for
that
him.
French pride coming in. You wanted to revenge this guy.
Yeah, well, TVP, of course, first map Terraform. I think first game macro, maybe we're gonna see Phoenix Colossi directly for the first game.
Maybe. So we talked to the guys. They're close friends, and so we wanted to get a little insight into how they're feeling going into this matchup.
프라임 팀 스크에도 같이 지내고 있어갖고 서로 연습을 많이 하고 왔는데 서로 스타일을 잘 알고 있기 때문에 컨디션 싸움이 될 것 같아요. 일단은 만족스러워요. 이렇게 만나게 된 게.
황규석 선수가 저랑 개인적으로도 많이 친해서 스타일도 서로 잘 알고 조금 누가 이길지 모르겠고 심리전이 되게 많은 경기가 될 것 같아요. 서로를 너무 잘 알고 있어서 그냥 재밌는 게임 할 수 있을 것 같아요.
거의 내일 명식이만 이기게 된다면 그냥 둘 중에 한 명이 이긴 선수가 무조건 우승하지 않을까라고 확신하고 있어요.
That was a much more pleasant little vignette than the one beforehand with the Marine Lord Psionic. A little more friendly.
It's still a bit strange though. Like if you're saying, I'm really looking forward to playing my. They were saying how good friends they were. They lived together, but they're really looking forward to playing each other. Isn't that not a bit strange? Like I want to see my friend lose. I want to beat my friend.
I don't think that's the mentality. I think they're saying, hey, I know this guy. I like playing against him. It's like, may the best man win. Because either way, you know, someone's got the pizza covered for next week, you know?
Got ya.
Yeah. So it was pretty awesome. We've got some historic results. We're going to take a look at that and see how these two have compared against one another in the past. Actually, we're not going to do that quite just yet.
No, we're not.
No, we're not. But no, I imagine, what is it like? You know, you've been a pro player for a while. What's it like when you go up against someone that you know and you actually like and enjoy?
Well, it depends because you can't be angry afterwards. You got to kind of be humble about it, and if you win or lose. So, but it's a lot different if you're actually living with someone. I've lived with Stefano. He's the only player that I've ever lived with. So when we actually played, I don't think we've ever played in a televised match, but on online competitions and stuff, there was a lot of mind games that go into it. So the fact they're actually playing in an offline competition and they have been living together and they do know each other, and like MyuNgSiK did say in the interview, in the pre-game interview, there will be a lot of mind games going into it. And him saying that as a Protoss player, this is a little bit scary because, as we all know, a lot of cheeses come from the Protoss side.
Absolutely. Daishi, real quick on your thoughts playing against someone you know?
Well, I think it favors MyuNgSiK there because as he knows... Oh, actually, I might be wrong there. If KeeN knows every cheese possible of MyuNgSiK, then he's going to be very, very comfortable in this early game. And it's the time of the game when the Terrans is always very scared of the Protoss. So if he knows what kind of cheese MyuNgSiK likes to do, he might be in a good spot. But on the other hand, MyuNgSiK can play on that. Like he knows that KeeN knows that can go all the way like that. And yeah, I'm just really looking forward to see that. And seeing KeeN saying that it's gonna just come down to the shape of the day makes me think that apparently the practice between them is very close. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, they would just have said, well, we are very good friends, but I'm just better than him. So
yeah, well, let's take a look at the previous history of these two playing against one another. Taking a look, KeeN versus MyuNgSiK. We have the most recent is 2-0 in the favor of KeeN, 2-1 then previously in the favor of MyuNgSiK, and then 2-0 favor of MyuNgSiK again. So the most recent at the Leafing Cup, number 76, KeeN 2-0. So does that make you worried, Bling?
It doesn't make me feel good. It's my prediction, if that's what you're asking. I think in recent forms, though, MyuNgSiK's been a lot better. We spoke about it a little bit before at the start of yesterday, in fact, just kind of how KeeN is as a player. And he's one of those players that have been around forever. He's always been a kind of staple name in the industry and as a Korean Terran, in fact. But he's never really made those deep runs. He's been very consistent, but he's never made those deep runs. And MyuNgSiK was kind of a player that's just risen up a little bit. He started off low, winning here and there, then maybe getting around to 32 in the GSL, but now he's actually made round of 8 and a few different things, and it's going pretty good for him. So I think, obviously, that latest loss against KeeN isn't too much to go by. I think MyuNgSiK's still pretty in good shape.
All right, Daishi, knowing Marine Lord, who do you think he has the best chance of winning against out of this series?
MyuNgSiK, because KeeN apparently have an insane TVT, like an insane one, and he's really scared to go against KeeN. So I think MyuNgSiK definitely is the best for him.
Okay, I'm gonna side with the power of Terran on this one, and I'm gonna go against the grain and say
There's so much hate for Protoss, man.
There's
like,
no hate for Protoss. There's
you're
love
meant
for
to be
Terran.
neutral.
Love for Terran.
There is a lack of love.
For Terran.
It's not the same.
Me in the middle getting kind of ganged up upon.
So real quick, give us your thoughts if you want to talk about what you think about the maps, who you think is going to win. You can find us on social media at Gfinity on Twitter, and you can also find us Gfinity TV on YouTube for previous videos and stuff like that. Let us know your thoughts, and with that, also Gfinity UK for Facebook. But we are now going to go to the stage where we're going to get things started. We're going to kick off the action. We're going to bring the players, MyuNgSiK and KeeN, onto the stage and get the action started. So take it away, Martin.
Thanks very much, Jared. Right, it's time. We're going to find out who's going to meet in the next final. We're going to see an amazing game. We had an all-French semi-final. We've now got an all-South Korean semi-final. So please welcome to the stage the first player from South Korea representing TCM Gaming, playing as Protoss, MyuNgSiK. They're good friends, but there's going to be no love lost here. They're going to put their friendship to one side. So the second player, also from South Korea, a Terran, representing Prime, it's KeeN. Okay, gentlemen, if you want to shake hands, get yourselves in the booths. We'll get ready for semi-final number 2. This is the decider. One of these guys is going to go on and play for some major money. Taking you through the action, our casters, TLO, and a better-looking version of me, Caldor.
All right, everybody, we are ready for a second semi-final. Once again, it's a Terran versus Protoss. We have the two Koreans going up against each other, which of course also means that we are going to see another French versus Korean match in the final then. And it's going to be pretty funny since we've been calling the French like the new Koreans for quite some time now, especially of course with Lil Bao just winning WCS. Yeah, what do you think about the two Koreans that we're seeing now?
Well, I think it's going to be pretty close as they're saying themselves. I must say I don't have like the most recent information on them, how their like daily form is. So we'll see after game 1, you know, how they pair up to each other today. And yeah, it's going to be cool that we have another French-Korean final. It's becoming kind of this El Clasico of Starcraft at the moment. And yeah, it'll be sick games.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward, especially after the interviews. I found that quite interesting what they said there. I mean, the analysis desk already went over it quite a bit, but we of course seen that both of them, they live together. There's a lot of mind games that go into that. How do you actually handle that when you're playing like one of your teammates that you have a lot of practice time with, where you know exactly what they're usually doing? How much thought goes really into the strategies? Do you try and not overdo it, or is it really just mind game after mind game?
Well, that really depends on match-to-match basis, kind of. Sometimes you get too much into it. You're thinking that I'm thinking that he's thinking, and then it turns out he's just playing standard, and you're trying to counter like some specific build that you think your friend is gonna do, and then it just goes completely wrong. So it's kind of like you need to feel the other person out throughout the series, which is kind of hard in a best of 3. In a best of 5, that's like easier. Like to adapt to each other, but you'll just have to see what they're gonna do.
What would you in that case prefer for game number 1? I mean, there's like basically 2 approaches to it. Either you try to cheese your opponent when you know that he expects you to play like standard, because as you already said, like if you overdo it with the mind games, then you might end up in a really bad spot there. So a lot of players try to approach the first game at least a little bit more cautious, try to really play it safe there. Do you think that's the best approach, to try and just like test the waters a little bit, or do you really feel that one of these players is gonna go all out in game number 1 right away to get a surprise start?
Well, what I think happens a lot is that you kind of, a lot of times you use your secondary standard build. So you don't play your best standard build, but like a standard build you still can play, but you don't use all the time. So, and then you can kind of see what your opponent is doing. At least that's somewhat my approach. Again, I don't know exactly how their practice went, so it'll be a bit of a surprise.
I mean, we've seen a couple of stats here on screen now as well, and of course, as you can already tell, KeeN pretty solid against Protoss here. We've already talked, of course, about his Terran versus Terran quite a bit, since we have Marine Lord in the finals waiting for an opponent, and apparently he's very eager to meet, well, MyuNgSiK again instead of KeeN, since KeeN seems to have a very strong TVT these days as well. But against Protoss, we've seen KeeN just yesterday, and his comeback was just absolutely insane against Lil Bao, that he was able to just like get that victory in there on map number 2, and then of course Lil Bao a bit on a tilt there in the 3rd game. So do you feel that affects MyuNgSiK as well, like watching these games?
I don't think he cares much, to be honest. First of all, Korean players are really good at just not caring too much about things like that happening at the tournament. They're confident. They know they've practiced so much in their life that it doesn't matter if like another player in another match something else happened. Like they focus on themselves. They know what they're good at. They're just gonna play it out straight.
Do you think that that's the best approach? Because when you say that, I completely agree with what you said, by the way. That seems to be like an attitude that they oftentimes show there. But then we had that game yesterday between MyuNgSiK and, of course, Patience, and all of a sudden that turned completely around against the Korean, who was going into the series as a huge favorite. And in that case, it felt like that maybe a bit of a lack of preparation was the downfall of Patience there, or do you really think it was just that he thought, okay, I'm the better player anyways, I'm going to play my standard style and it's going to be good enough?
Well, you know, we kind of speculate a lot. There's many factors. Sometimes, for example, a Korean player comes to Europe and it turns out the chat like hits him a little bit harder than usually. And then in PvP, of course, we have a lot of, you know, PvP is like this matchup where it's easier to be the underdog, actually. Because if you're the favored, you're overthinking things a little bit, while the other the underdog a lot of times in Protoss versus Protoss just goes full YOLO, which is like what you want to do in PvP, because you want to take steep risks and just go with it. While as a favorite, you're like I don't really want to just lose to a build order that my build order just loses to, so I'm gonna go the middle path. And a lot of times the middle path then just loses to both extremes.
Yeah. Well, I like what the analysis, of course, said also about like what we have in terms of the maps and the strategies that they expect. We have that Phoenix and Colossus style that we could see on the first map in particular here on Terraform from MyuNgSiK. Then again, KeeN with a lot of drop play. And KeeN in general was very aggressive throughout the entire series that we've seen him play thus far, especially, of course, with the Terran versus Protoss. One of the things that we've definitely seen him show several times is that drop style with the Widow Mines. And that's something that we could see, of course, once again. Especially given that we are now currently in the semifinal, a lot of the analysts have already been saying that they expect a bit more of a cautious style from both of these players, so it's going to be interesting how they adapt there. And the important part here is that if you win this series, you of course are already guaranteed 2,500 euros, even if you lose in the finals. But as we said, it's going to be that French-Korean battle once again. So as soon as the players are ready, we're going to jump into it. Our first map is going to be Terraform. What do you personally think about the map now?
Well, Terraform, at least according to the stats I have, is pretty Protoss favored. So the first map is Protoss favored, and then the next two are slightly Terran favored. So if KeeN manages to take a win here, he's like statistically already in a really good spot, even more than it looks like.
So in general, we had like unfortunately only one Zerg player here, since Bly, who was supposed to be the second and Zerg playing at the tournament, had visa issues. That seems just to be one of the common themes these days. So we had a lot of like Protoss here already. We had a lot of Terran. It's actually like pretty balanced here in the finals. We have two Protoss versus Terran. There's a chance that we are going to see that PVT also once again in the finals, and as well the same matchup. The players are getting ready, and we're going into our first map. It's a best of 3, of course. In the finals, we're going to see a best of 5 series then between the two remaining players. MarineLord is, of course, going to be watching everything here. He had this success already against MyuNgSiK and is therefore in a position where he can just like relax right now, study, of course, the games of his opponents. And well, the games are live, so let's jump right into it. Terraform game number 1 here. And currently starting down to the bottom right of the map, we have the Protoss player. It is MyuNgSiK. He, of course, played already a very solid quarterfinal there where he took down his opponent. And in this case, we have his Terran opponent up to the top left. Playing here in blue, it is KeeN with that 6 series that he played against Lilbo. Great play there, especially after he fell down in the first map. He had no chance at coming back, and then game number 2, it looked like he was actually beaten and the French player would advance, but he starts that comeback and is, well, now in the semifinals. So good job by him. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting match between the two of them. Let's find out if KeeN can do it again.
Yep, it's going to be a cool match. The thing about Terraform is it's a lot about the early game. There's a lot of things Protoss can do to put on pressure on Protoss, because you have a big cliff where you can do plink play. You can kind of come in from the side. But at the same time, Terran has this big open field next to the base where you can drop in very easily without Protoss being able to do much about it, except being prepared in their main already. So it'll be a pretty flexible game when it comes to that, pretty heavy aggression. In general, Terraform gives you a lot of attack paths.
One of the things that KeeN definitely excelled at in the series that he played in the tournament is especially his decision making. That was one of the things that, of course, especially Daishi talked about a lot. I mean, Daishi himself being, of course, a great Terran player, and he thought that it was absolutely incredible how KeeN adapted to the situations that he faced in all of the games that he played against Lilbo. So that was something that we might even be able to expect here now as well. KeeN actually the first one to scout in the series now. And when it comes to MyuNgSiK, as already Daniel said, we expect a bit of a more passive stance from him. KeeN, on the other hand, we could really see that aggression again. I mean, at this point, do you think we're going to see maybe him with another Widowmine drop, or?
Yeah, I think it's going to be transitional pressure. So he doesn't want to go all in and just attack, and if the attack fails, he loses, and if the attack succeeds, he wins. He's going to do some light pressure of 2 base. And there's already the engineering bay trying to block the nexus of MyuNgSiK. So that's basically, yeah, exactly that. He's going to try to delay the Protoss while not investing too much himself.
And that's actually something that we've seen yesterday as well, and it worked quite well here. So for now, we have KeeN once again trying to block the opponent's expansion spot. He has the Reaper coming in pretty standard thus far. Wants, of course, to scout out the main base to see exactly what's happening there. MyuNgSiK has already taken his double gas, and he will go down to that tech path. When in this case, like, he has quite a bit of options there. And of course, for KeeN, it's going to be the most important part. What exactly is going to be the tech choice of MyuNgSiK? So he's going to try and get a look at that. We have a Zealot opening here for MyuNgSiK, which is going to help him, of course, quite a bit with that engineering bay.
Yeah, that's basically the right start for him. If you skip the Zealot and goes straight into a Stalker, you have a real problem. It's going to be delayed so much. But now it's not really a big deal. It kind of ends up pretty much even in this situation, maybe slightly better for Protoss.
Well, with that, Mothership Core, of course, also dedicated to that. We had that Reaper trying to sneak into the main base, but the Stalker is out, and therefore no additional scouting information for KeeN, who, by the way, started his own expansion now back at home. So instead of like heading into any kind of early drop play that we've seen him use a couple of times, he's playing it right now with an early expansion there, and then transitions over into that reactor in the factory.
Yeah, KeeN in the meantime, he's scouting around, unless he wants to put a starport in the corner to proxy, but I think it's mostly just to see the Oracle. Even though it's kind of hiding out there and waiting for the factory to finish, so maybe we're gonna see some cheeky play here.
We've seen him actually with a few things like this in the first game that he played yesterday, when he was trying to just like proxy a bit on the map. So far, he's not really committing to anything here. We have him with the starport in the main base, just out for the scout here, wants to see if maybe an Oracle is going to head down that path. And we see also, of course, like MyuNgSiK right now trying to just protect the space for now, even going into that sentry. We have him with the Robo already, so pretty safe play from both of them, covering their bases.
Yeah. This is nothing crazy from either of them. It's just gonna depend a little bit on the timing of the drop. If the drop hits when the observer is out of the base, so if he hits at a little bit delayed timing, it could do a little bit of damage, but most likely he's gonna drop the Widow Mine, maybe kill 2 workers, the mine gets cleaned up, and then it stabilizes from there.
Yeah, and we've seen some incredible actually defense against like Widow Mine drops in general throughout the tournament now. But KeeN has been really constant about it, and against Lilbo, one of the Widow Mines that he placed down in game number 3 basically won him the game, denying mining to Lilbo for a long time. So KeeN really loves to use those to just like shut down a few of those bases.
I think we have a, yeah, that's a very interesting third base by KeeN, so that SCV actually was there for a reason, not just to scout. He's gonna hide a third CC there. So that's definitely, that's a mind game. Like, that's something you don't usually do. That's something he tries to put off MyuNgSiK a little bit, so he gets a little bit confused there.
I actually like that quite a bit. So he's going into one of those ninja expands. What is your personal stance on that? Because there's always this argument that has been around for quite some time. What do you want to do if you have that base up? Do you just drop your mules on that base because you think my opponent is going to find it eventually? Let's try and mine as fast as I can so that I get a lot of value out of it. Then again, if your opponent scouts your main base and realizes there are no mules over there anywhere, he might realize that there has to be something hidden on the map. Oh, nice attack against the Stalker, takes it out. But yeah, coming back to that thought, or you can just like say, hey, I'm just going to build up a worker count down there and only use like the occasional mule. What do you think about that?
Well, it depends a little bit. For example, now he just cleaned up the observer, so he should be free to mule the third base, because Protoss is not going to see that there's no mules in the natural or in the main base. So now I'd be surprised if he doesn't mule the third base, because obviously you want to be able to mine as long as you can from your natural and from your main. And if you can mine out another base faster, that's great for you.
We have scouting going on the map again, but in this case not to the bottom left, so MyuNgSiK is not going to scout that out. Already the Widow Mine in place and takes 1 kill, but that's it. Didn't even get the kill, right?
Yeah, he got
Okay.
one probe, but I'm a little bit surprised about that photon overcharge because he could have just cleaned that up with his normal units.
Yeah, it looked like overkill a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. But then again, the energy is going to build up again, and maybe he doesn't think he's going to have to use it until he has 200 energy again anyway. That's quite a lot of gates coming here from MyuNgSiK.
Yeah.
7 gates, the Robo, 3 Immortals out, so this is very aggressive play. He's going to try to go for a bust in the natural.
And KeeN, he has that third base already, so he has to buy some time. We see also the mules that he dropped, so with him taking down that observer, he just commits fully to the expansion down to the bottom left. He also has some scouting information about what's going on thanks to the units that he just saw on the map, so he will see that there is an aggressive move by MyuNgSiK, and he has to react to that, of course. He's already going into upgrades, he's waiting for Stim and for Combat Shield, and we have him right now with a pretty decent production, but MyuNgSiK is going to go all out with this.
And this is going to be extremely difficult for KeeN, because usually, as Terran, you don't take your third base that fast nowadays anymore. And the bunkers are late also, so if KeeN can hold here and doesn't lose too much, he'll be in a great spot with the third base. On the other hand, this will be hard.
And here comes the Protoss already trying to use the force field, takes down the first bunker. Well done, and now there's nothing that KeeN can do to save this base. He just doesn't have the army count. 8 of the SCVs already down, army size 40 against 58 supply.
The interesting thing is, this is actually not that bad for KeeN, because now he can just defend the main. He doesn't have the pressure that he needs to hold the natural, because he still has a second base mining after all. So eventually this could be pretty good for him.
Well, at this point he's losing even more harvesters, but of course MyuNgSiK is now in a position where he's trying to contain KeeN a bit. He doesn't really want to commit to walking up that ramp with all those Widow Mines around and also the bunker in place. There's not really too much that he can do about it. As long as that base down here to the bottom left of KeeN is not scouted though, KeeN has a solid position there, but we still have a supply lead overall for MyuNgSiK. He has the edge in the game at this point, but he of course needs to realize at some point that something else is going on.
Right, he should, it's very hard to know that, but he should know there's something missing, that KeeN basically had too little of everything. He can't just assume KeeN is a bad player, so there must be a base or something, but it's kind of hard to realize that as a Protoss.
He wants to go for it. He's actually trying to go up that ramp once again, splitting those SCVs of the bunker. No repair there. Takes down the first one. He has 2 more to go through. And of course, he's also using those sentries for the shield. But once again, from the low ground, sniping another one. KeeN is holding on to it. He's just defending as much as he can, and in the meantime, mining from the bottom left.
So if KeeN actually gets enough units to be confident enough to hold the high ground anyway, and then gets a drop out, that could work out really well for him. He'll force a recall, then he can take his natural again. It's on 3 base versus 2. On the other hand, Bio just becomes much better against that kind of army. It scales better, so he'll be in a good spot anyway.
KeeN is once again going for the upgrades already, and the Protoss player with the force fields just like sectioning off a couple of units and taking them down. 1 bunker still in position for KeeN. He's at 100 supply against 115, and the worker count is actually not too bad for the Terran player. He's slightly behind, but he has that triple mule available.
Yeah, I'm liking this more and more for KeeN, because MyuNgSiK, he's kind of stuck in this scenario. He just wants to keep pressing and pressing, but I don't think it's going to work out in the end.
He's actually losing a lot of sentries. He just lost 4 sentries to that attack, and he's moving up the ramp right now with the Zealots, but all of them are going to be taken apart. The Terran player just moving back a bit, and he still has all of those Widow Mines on the high ground, and MyuNgSiK is losing a ton of his army. He way overcommitted at this point. He doesn't realize that there's another base on the map, and he just feels that all that he has to do is take KeeN down here. He must realize at some point that there's just too many units being built.
I really don't like the decision making by MyuNgSiK, because there's 2 scenarios. Either I have Terran contained on 1 base, and then there's no reason for me to go up there because I'm on 2 base, or there's another base out there, and then he should check for it. So it's a little bit tough for him right now.
And he completely gets destroyed here by his opponent. KeeN taking him down. Another round of Warplanes. The GG, and KeeN takes game number 1.
Nice and easy. 3rd base, unorthodox, very effective.
But as you already said, like, that was a little bit surprising, I want to say. I mean, you force your opponent to give up his natural, he flies into the main base, you have that contain, you are on the lower ground of the ramp, so there's basically nothing that at this point KeeN can do to really escape. He won't have that medivac count so that he can't suddenly flank you. So all that you have to do to play it safe is really scout out what's happening on the map and just like play a safe game from there. It's a little bit surprising to me that he didn't do that. At some point he must have realized, I can't go up that ramp, I can't keep poking there.
Right.
Why do you think that happened?
A little bit overconfidence. He thought his opponent is just mining on 1 base, and then if he keeps force fielding units and kills them, eventually it should snowball that he just has enough units to go up there. But because there was a 2nd base mining, that didn't happen, but I still think going up there is a mistake anyway, because it's like overconfident, right? If your 2 base versus 1 base, you're happy anyway, then you just tag up after that. You could get Colossus tag, you could get Blink tag. Just keep pumping out Immortals, you'll have a very strong army. But yeah, I think he thought he has a game won and just wanted to end it.
It's basically just like a big gamble that he takes there when he tries to go up that ramp. There's no real need for him to do that. He would be in a great position either way. I mean, at this point, KeeN with a 1-0 lead, and it actually didn't look too bad for MyuNgSiK. I mean, he had really the perfect strategy there. We had KeeN committing to those bases early on in the game, therefore his army count was low. He gives up that natural. MyuNgSiK goes for a heavy gateway pressure together with those Immortals, and then just doesn't scout out the map, and therefore KeeN once again looks like he is beaten, or that he's at least on the back foot, and as against Lilbo, he's again the one who prevails just by being patient and trying to play his cards. He had the Widow Mines all the way up at the high ground, so every single time that we saw MyuNgSiK poke up that ramp, he lost so many units. And yeah, MyuNgSiK just lacking that patience a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. All he needed to do is send a single stalker around the map, find the base, he wins the game. But sometimes it's all it takes is one scouting unit to lose or win a game. That's the game of Starcraft.
Well, the next map... Excuse me, it's going to be Iron Fortress, so it's going to be map number 2, as you can see here. We had KeeN win the first one, so he is in the lead of the best of 3 series. One map is all that KeeN needs to advance to the finals, where he would then, in a best of 5, meet Marine Lord. We have currently Iron Fortress as our second map, as already mentioned, and if need be, Moonlight Madness is going to be the decider here at the tournament semi-final. But yeah, very well played by KeeN, and MyuNgSiK, of course, he's the one that's... Well, he's the one that is being pressured right now. He needs to come up with something. Is it really like as easy as just saying like, okay, I just focus on the match at hand as a player when you find yourself in such a situation, or does it always like play a huge role and you feel like you are forced to make the play now?
It really depends on your daily form. Sometimes you don't care, you're just gonna play your game and you make the sickest comebacks, and sometimes it gets you get flustered. I'm not sure myself yet when scenario A, when scenario B happens, but every player is a little bit different there as well. So we'll see in the play. It'll reflect there.
Yeah, we're gonna find out right now as we have to the top right of Iron Fortress, our Protoss player down 1 game in the best of 3 series. It's MyuNgSiK. Protoss here, of course, he needs to win 2 in a row now if he really wants to go to the grand final of the Gfinity Summer Masters. He goes up against the Terran player KeeN to the top left, as we can see here. KeeN with incredible performance throughout the tournament. Bit of a comeback king here. The commander playing well, taking down Lilbo, the WCS champion, and now also in the lead against MyuNgSiK, who was also Blink's favorites to take the entire tournament.
Yeah, well, we'll see if he's right or wrong now. One more chance for MyuNgSiK, and then he needs to do it again. I think I'm liking the position for Protoss here, because I think it's better to have the drop path in the natural to be vulnerable than Terran being able to drop right into your main bed. You can take out critical structures like robos and stuff. If you lose a few probes here and there to drops, it's not quite as bad as when you lose your Colossus tech and you just don't have the army anymore.
It's actually exactly what we saw yesterday when KeeN played against Lilbo, that he was able to get into the main base and only snipe one of those next side that could have been replaced, but at the same time the Colossus tech was taken down too, and then there was just like absolutely nothing that Lilbo could do in that scenario. So as you already said, those tech structures extremely vulnerable if you get the direct drop path, and in this case you can take on the economy, but you will have a much harder time to really going into those tech structures in the main itself. So MyuNgSiK now, as we said, he's down in the series, so he needs to win 2 in a row, and he might feel a bit pressure to make some aggressive plays here. KeeN, on the other hand, with a bit of a gamble in game number 1 as well, going for that hidden expansion that worked out quite well for him, and might do something like this again. The players, they have been practicing together for a lot. They've been actually like also living together, so a lot of mind games will go into that series as they already predicted, and as we've seen in game number 1. And I'm a little bit curious if KeeN is going to try and pull something like that in game number 2 now again.
A big question now is, did MyuNgSiK actually realize when he left the game that there must be another base? Because if he didn't, Iron Fortress is quite a good map to also do a CC like that. You can just put it in another corner and Protoss is never going to know about it. It's not like you just scout there.
I guess you would assume that he would have looked at the stats and like looked at mining and everything, and like all the numbers. So
but sometimes you don't when you lose. Like it's really stupid. Oh, and look, well, I mean, that's the scout. But yeah, sometimes you just don't think about it. You just leave the game, don't look at the stats, because, well, I lost, I attacked up the ramp. That was stupid. And you don't realize the implications behind it.
It's actually a really good point, because KeeN could just decide to do this exact same thing again. And if MyuNgSiK didn't look at the stats afterwards and didn't realize what was happening there, then he could be falling into the same trap once more. And that must be like the worst feeling, right? I mean, if you make the mistake not only once but twice in the same game, and then later on you just like leave the booth and you talk to a couple of players and everybody is telling you, didn't you see those faces?
Especially, I mean, they're friends, so KeeN is gonna rub it in his face. It's like, dude, like, didn't you realize? But this game is gonna be a little bit different. Looks like Widow Mine drop by KeeN and Stargate for MyuNgSiK. So both players are going into a little bit of a different direction. No fast expand from either of them.
Yeah, KeeN really liked his aggression against Lilbo. He started different against MyuNgSiK, but right now he's back to what he showed yesterday. We have the scouting going on for him as well, of course. As usually happens, he finds his opponent in the last position possible. The Protoss player is a bit more lucky, sends it exactly counterclockwise, and is going to find KeeN right away. So we see their commitment to a Stargate here. Once again, also with the Oracle first, of course, and the Marines are going to try and deny the probe, but can only chase it away and not take it down.
This is pretty heavy pressure, or maybe even an all-in by Protoss. 3 gates plus Stargate, and there's going to be a lot of units very early, and the Terran player doesn't really have a lot of production himself. He has a lot of harassment potential, but he doesn't have he's not going to have a lot straight-up fighting units. So this could go either way. If Terran does a lot of economy damage with this drop, he'll be in a great shape, but at the same time there's an Oracle on the way to Terran, and I don't think KeeN has really any defense against that.
Yeah, he doesn't have anything, and that could be absolutely devastating. There's also a Paladin position already, and that Medivac didn't see the Oracle either. So the drop is headed towards the base of MyuNgSiK now, but still, there comes the Oracle, and there's nothing over here that could defend against the Oracle. He's gonna lose a ton. Oracle could even start focusing down the few Marines that are still available there. On the other hand of the map, though, we're having now those 2 Hellions and the Marines starting to move up that ramp. MyuNgSiK should be able to defend here, though. He has another round of warp-ins, and this is looking pretty good for him at this point.
Yeah, this would work out for KeeN if this would be Oracle fast expand, but Oracle 3 gate, no problem to hold this.
Yeah, and he's already moving in, taking down the Widow Mine, and he's trying to snipe that Medivac. Doesn't get that kill, but 9 kills against the SCV line, and MyuNgSiK finds himself in a great position here. He's 7 workers ahead already, 22 against 15. The Oracle still lingering around, and there's the warp in that we're seeing for MyuNgSiK. Army size, of course, also in favor of the Protoss player, 24 against 16, and he is going to start to apply even more pressure to KeeN.
Yeah, this is a classic scenario. It's like 1 base Protoss is usually better than 1 base Terran. The 1 base Terran is really good against 2 base Protoss, but this is not the case, and I think KeeN is just gonna get defeated here basically right now.
Yeah, I mean, there we have already the, there's the Oracle moving in again, taking down the Marines over here. There's absolutely no defense. 10 army supply against 26. GG and MyuNgSiK with a pretty solid victory on the second map. And so basically at this point already the predictions of Daishi coming through, we are going to see that 3rd game between the 2 of them.
Yeah, definitely not a 2-0, and now we're gonna have Moonlight Madness, which is again, is kind of the dark horse of the maps, because it's vetoed so heavily in lots of tournaments. And in the Korean scene, they're mostly still playing the older map pools, so also there it was not really popular. So obviously they practice it on ladder. But even on ladder, a lot of people veto it, so even if you don't have it vetoed yourself, you might not get a lot of games on it, because everybody else has it vetoed. So it could be that we're going to see something very risky and kind of aggressive again, because usually the more you have figured a matchup or a map out, the easier it is to macro, the easier it is to know the defensive timings and get ahead like that. But if you're not quite comfortable on a map, it's very hard to have those crisp, perfect timings, because if you're used to an all-in hitting 10 seconds later, and then suddenly your bunker is also 10 seconds later, and then the attack hits before that, you can lose a game right away.
I mean, with the decision-making that we've seen from KeeN in the series before, that might actually even favor him in such a scenario when you have to make those decisions on the fly. He seems to be really strong with this. But in this case, of course, now the openings that we saw from the 2 players worked against KeeN. He, unfortunately, for him, didn't also... Like, if he, for example, sees with the Medivac that there's an Oracle headed his way, he can always abort his own attack, just like fly back with the Medivac and try and defend and then take it from there. But as it happened, he just lost way too much economy already, and his own drop didn't really do anything. So it all comes down to the last map, which is going to be Moonlight Madness. I'm pretty excited for this one. This should be real fun. I mean, we've seen actually like 2 completely different games here. And the first one, it was like that a bit of a gamble that KeeN took with that third base. It worked out perfectly well since MyuNgSiK overcommitted a bit to his own attack. And then in the second one, just that Oracle doing so much damage. So I want to see a long macro game between the two of them, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't think if you're going to get your wish, that
Yeah,
is a lot of times that is the case. If two players know each other so well, you just want to abuse like them with a build you've had very good success with.
Yeah, and here we have once again the graphic, of course. We have a 1-1 in the series here in the semi-final at the Gfinity Summer Masters. And Moonlight Madness, the last map, Terraform won by KeeN. And then on game number 2, we had MyuNgSiK prevail. Very well played here. Moonlight Madness is going to be an interesting one. And as Dario already pointed out, of course, if you have two players that know each other this well, there is always just like a lot of curveballs throwing around. But now we're going into game number 3 of the series. Moonlight Madness, our final map in this best of 3. And then we're going to see either KeeN or MyuNgSiK advance to the final. In this case now, starting down to the bottom left of the map, we have the Protoss player victorious on the last map, MyuNgSiK, with that victory here. Great opening for him going into not only the Stargate, but then also the additional gateways. And up to the top right cross position, we have KeeN, the Terran player in blue. And yeah, after the original good start into the best of 3 series, he finds himself now on the third and last map, and Moonlight Madness is a map where decision-making is going to become important. We could once again see one of those players try to go for a bit of a mind game.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll come down to a lot to the first Reaper of KeeN. On Moonlight Madness, you have a little bit of an easier time to scout with the Reaper than on some other maps. So if KeeN can identify what MyuNgSiK is doing, he can adapt to that and have a really strong defense. But, I mean, who knows? Maybe both players are just going to play macro this time, and then there's not going to be any crazy early action here anyway.
It would be really nice if you could see a macro game there. I mean, it's a little bit less likely, as you already pointed out before, but in this case, we've seen 2 very short games between the 2 of them. And MyuNgSiK, he's of course one of the players who, especially like Bling said, he can see him win the tournament. And either way, it's actually kind of funny to think about like how Marine Lord, who's already in the final, is thinking about this particular setup, that he's saying like, yeah, I want to face the Protoss player. I don't really want to go up against the Terran. KeeN's TVT, his mirror match is just way too good. So he's probably going to cheer for the Protoss at this point. And it would also help him. I mean, he can already identify a little bit how MyuNgSiK plays here. So analyzing those games now is something that he's definitely doing from the backstage area. So it would be a bit of a favor for him if MyuNgSiK is the one to advance.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like both players don't want the previous games to repeat, so they're both sending out a scout reasonably early. And they're gonna, you know, first 2 games were a little bit crazy now, so now they feel like they need to scout to figure out what is the other guy is doing. If he's also playing 1 base again, can I counter it with a superior 1 base? Or, well, can I just do an engineering bay block again?
Yeah. And that's exactly what he's doing, but this time he's actually not getting all those hit points, and he wants to have the scout there first, and he can go back. But of course, like with the earlier identification there, we are going to see MyuNgSiK head into the Zealot and not going to skip it. We've been talking about this a little bit earlier. If you actually skip the Zealot and you find yourself blocked by an engineering bay, then it's going to be pretty tricky, and it's going to delay your expansion a lot. But in this case, right now, the SCV doesn't even have the time to put too many hit points on it.
Yeah, this is definitely a victory for MyuNgSiK. That was not worth it at all. He's going to be able to put a little bit more hit points into this, but the Probes are always going to chase the SCV, and the Zealot is almost going to be out there.
Yeah, the Reaper is on the way now, though, and you've been already talking about on this map specifically that it's a bit easier to jump in there with the Reaper and get that scouting information. He's also going to get that Probe. They cancel on the engineering bay. But now 1 kill against the Probe. Mothership Core on the other hand is out now though, so the Reaper shouldn't be able to do too much. But as long as he can find out that there is actually an expansion, that would be great for him. But so far the Reaper has been chased away.
This is a really nice scouting opportunity for KeeN, because now he has the SCV in the back. And he can't really do anything about it, because if he would send his Mothership there, he would be open to the Reaper scout. So this is kind of like a double-pronged scouting that we don't hear so much about, but yeah, I like this position for KeeN. He's getting his own base. He's just gonna play kind of standard, getting a second barracks to get those marine numbers up, get a stim pack, and getting also a factory behind it, probably for a reasonably early Widow Mine, get Medivacs, do a little bit of harass.
And the Stargate on the other side for MyuNgSiK here again for him, and of course both of them now with the expansion on the way. So this is a little bit of a slower start into the game than what we've seen throughout the series thus far. Once again, the Reaper in the main base, trying of course to identify the tech, and he is picking up on that Stargate and also is going to find out about that expansion again. I mean, he already had a look a bit earlier, but right now he has all the information that he needs. He knows exactly what's going on. Whereas MyuNgSiK doesn't really know too much. He has that Oracle in production now, so that's going to show him eventually potentially what's going on, but at this point he's still playing pretty blind.
This is actually quite interesting. KeeN is going for double Hellion production. He doesn't have a factory yet himself. So I think he wants to make 4 or 6 Hellions and then just kind of try to drive in there and to do a ton of economical damage. It's a little bit of an unexpected path. Oh, no, never mind. He's just getting 2 Hellions.
Yeah, so he has the 2 Hellions right now. We have also the transition already for MyuNgSiK going into that Robo, so that he has the Observer ready in case that KeeN is going to try and drop again with Widow Mines, or even commit to like a Banshee, which he did yesterday. In this case, not really needed, but there's the Hellions moving into the base, so the 2 original ones trying to get a couple of kills here for the trade. Taking down 2 already, gonna get a 3rd one here, so not too bad. And we have the Oracle up to the top right, trying to deny one of the reactors. That's not gonna happen. But yeah, at least scouting out what's happening here and knows exactly, of course, what KeeN is building now and which path he's heading down.
Yeah, pretty equal trades there. Oracle takes out a few Marines, Hellions take out 3 probes, and also get the scouting information that there's a 2nd Oracle. That's pretty important, because then you need to be a lot more careful. You can't just have, before you can just have 5 Marines at one spot, and then they can 5 Marines beat an Oracle. But if you have 5 Marines there and 5 Marines at another spot, and then 2 Oracles attack the 5 Marines that are by themselves, you just lose all the Marines and can lose the game right there. So this is very crucial information for KeeN.
And we have double Oracle now moving in again. And also a Stalker starting to commit and just walking into the backline. That's going to help with the Marines a lot. Here come the Oracles. They go straight for it. The Stalker's helping out a bit, but he's starting to attack. Yeah, 1 more Marine, but it is actually not working out the way that MyuNgSiK was hoping for. He's losing not only his Stalker, but he's also losing one of his Oracles.
Yeah, KeeN making the right decision there, putting his Marines into the natural. I think he didn't really leave anything in the main. So if MyuNgSiK attacks into the main, he could have definitely killed a lot of workers there. Maybe that was a bit Widow Mine, but you can always evade that. So yeah, kind of scouting that 2nd Oracle. Great information for him, because he knew there was going to be something like that happening.
Yeah, and at that point, KeeN immediately is saying like, okay, I just like took down that Oracle and the Stalker, and he goes into an expand now. So he starts to expand. He starts with the upgrades, the engineering base ready. He starts with the +1. Stim is on the way now too. Adds additional gas as well. So he's just like macroing up at this point. And MyuNgSiK is trying to apply a bit more pressure with that Oracle that he already has. When we're looking at the Harvest account, we have KeeN still slightly behind, which is pretty usual for a Terran versus Protoss. But of course, all of those mules that you have will put the Terran player a bit ahead when it comes to the mineral income, especially with that 3rd base now coming up, which has, by the way, been scouted by the Observer.
So one big problem for KeeN right now is he has an extremely late Stargate, and MyuNgSiK is following up with a Colossus, Phoenix, most likely 2 ways all in. And against that, you really need a healthy Viking count. You need at least 2 Medivacs. He doesn't have any Medivacs yet. He doesn't even start production on them yet. And then you need a ton of Vikings. So he's either going to have a few Medivacs or Vikings, but he can't have both in this case now, and you kind of need both to defend.
Yeah, at this point he does only have 1 starport that just completed now, so he didn't start a 2nd one yet, and with him just like now finishing up his 3rd base, he doesn't of course have that economy to back that completely. But KeeN has at least found out what's going on there. The force field isolating one of the Marines, and well, he's left behind and taken out, but by now of course KeeN realizes what's going on here, and he needs to make sure that he is prepared for it.
He's getting a 2nd starport now, so he knows something like that is happening. That's the right precaution, but I don't know if this is going to be enough, early enough. Still no production in the starport. That's a huge mistake.
Yeah, he is waiting. Well, he needs, of course, the resource for that, and the 3rd base is now just being saturated, so he's splitting off his SCVs and just like putting a few to the 3rd, having the rest at the natural and the main base. But we already see, as you mentioned before, the Phoenix is on the side of MyuNgSiK. And KeeN knows what's going on there. And army supply is still looking solid, but he definitely needs those tech units. That's a great pick, by the way. Getting a Phoenix here, that's really worth already quite a bit. So KeeN with a pretty solid play.
Yeah, there's a lot of synergy as soon as you reach certain Phoenix numbers. If you have 5 Phoenix, it's way better than if you have 4. Because when you lift a unit, you kind of lose one Phoenix fighting. So you need a certain amount of numbers. I think this might become a little bit similar to the first game, because KeeN has 3 bases. So even if he gets attacked now, he can just lift his CC and then retreat back into his main and win a lot of time like that. build up a bigger army, and then eventually have the superior army composition. But this is going to hit pretty soon and pretty hard.
Yeah, and KeeN is trying to buy himself a bit of time, but so far it looks like MyuNgSiK is really poised to attack here. We have the Viking and also the medevac production still ongoing for KeeN. He needs to get those numbers up, even throwing down a missile turret right now, because he says, I need something to just delay this for as long as I can. I have the numbers, but I still need that unit count. Marines are not going to cut it here. And at this point, KeeN is just like desperately trying to especially increase that Viking count. But we have all those Colossi starting to move in, and KeeN really just still on the mission to buy himself a bit more time.
It's really nice to have some of the units out there to flank. It makes it much harder for MyuNgSiK to attack. But now he's not taking care and losing a lot of units for free.
Yeah, well, he has to move back there, and he's losing his Marauders. And at the same time, the Viking count is steadily increasing. That pylon there at the front is not going to help either, though. And MyuNgSiK is starting to move in. He has the better army supply at this point and is still poking around. There's 2 bunkers, 3 bunkers, and 1 missile turret that is about to go down. Once again, MyuNgSiK on the move, but we have those 3 bases for KeeN still doing work.
Yeah, the supply count should favor KeeN soon, but the army is better of MyuNgSiK, and he's going in there.
Yeah, he's actually moving in right now, taking down the first bunker. And of course, once again, KeeN with a quick stimia trying to force it back, taking down the first Colossus. But most of the Vikings are already gone. A couple of Phoenixes are down, and the rest of the units are starting to flank. KeeN coming in from behind and up at the front at the same time. There's a gap between the force fields that he's trying to use to get closer to his opponent. KeeN down to 90 supply, though, against 106. And MyuNgSiK is once again in the lead in the army supply. He has the better units, still 2 Colossi alive, and he's pushing KeeN back. But KeeN still relying on 2 bunkers, and at least for now, MyuNgSiK has to retreat.
He has to retreat, but he's just going to wait for another warp in, and then he'll go again. And I think this time it'll be enough.
KeeN just doesn't have the worker count anymore. He lost 19 in that last attack, so he's down to 40 workers at this point. Has to heavily rely also on the mules. We have 2 Vikings back to business, but there's still a couple of Phoenixes to soak shots and put pressure on them, and that's exactly what he does. As long as MyuNgSiK can keep those Colossi alive and poke from a distance, he's in a solid spot there. And army supply-wise, he's at 84 against 65 right now.
Not only that, he also had the better army supply. There's just not enough Vikings to deal with the Colossus easily.
And once again, the Protoss player moves in. One of the Colossi being macroed back. The second one is just barely dying. Well done here. And KeeN still at 90 supply. And he's actually, for now, still able to push MyuNgSiK back a bit further. And 2 of those bunkers are alive and being repaired. So KeeN still holding on.
I feel like MyuNgSiK should try to take down the destructible rocks now and try to go from that path. One big mistake I feel like he made, he halted his Colossus production in favor for more gateway units, because he thought he can finish earlier, but if he would have kept up the Colossus production, he would be in a much better spot right now.
And another good snipe against the Phoenix, just using that superior range of the Vikings. And as long as KeeN is gonna able to get south and take down a few units, it's exactly what he needs to do, just poke a bit. And you can really tell that now those 3 bases are suddenly starting to give him quite a bit of momentum. He's increasing his army supply count again. He's currently catching up. He's at 81 against 86, and he's getting the triple Viking production. So KeeN is starting to look much, much better. And MyuNgSiK decides that it's just like time to change strategies. He can't go down on that natural. He needs to go for that 3rd base, and that's what he's now attempting to do.
KeeN, in the meantime, kind of out of position. He sees the pylons are unprotected, so he should know this is kind of coming, but Protoss army is going into an unprotected base. Gonna do a great amount of damage, can take down the collapsible rocks, so it'll be really hard for Terran to even defend this base.
But Terran is just like moving down to the bottom left. He tries to go for a counterattack. KeeN is once again trying to go for a bit of a trade. He's losing his 3rd, but he knows that as long as he can trade well here, it's going to be all right. 18 half-dusters taken down. There's no mothership or anything with his army, and once again we're having KeeN moving in. He's just going to snipe it, and there's the GG as MyuNgSiK realizes he won't be able to hold this. He can't go up the ramp to the main base. The Viking count is too high, and KeeN takes the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Crucial point. There was no mothership for. KeeN realizes that, goes for the counterattack. Perfect execution.
It's really well done here. I mean, he sees that the Protoss player moves towards the 3rd base. There's no mothership core, and he just simply says, like, you know what, if you're up at the top, I can trade that base. As long as I snipe one, I'm going to be fine. I'm not quite sure if he even expected MyuNgSiK to give up there, but let's be honest, what could MyuNgSiK do? He was trying to go into the high ground. There's still... KeeN left so many Vikings behind that it was no problem for him to actually say, hey, if you try to go into my base, I'm going to take you down. So in this case, we have a 2-1 victory from MyuNgSiK now, sorry, for KeeN, who advances into the finals, where he is going to face Marine Lord in a Terran versus Terran that the French player was kind of dreading.
Yeah, he's not going to be too happy about that, but in the end, he needs to forget what he said earlier now you know, just gotta try to win,
Yeah.
just try to do his best. I mean, Korean PvT is very high level, but Marine Lord, you know, he can do it. He's definitely not necessarily a different caliber of player. They're kind of on even footing, I would say.
Yeah, and Daishi with his predictions was absolutely spot on there. 2-1 victory for KeeN. So very well played here, especially like, of course, the decision making once again, like Daishi was commenting on it yesterday, was praising KeeN for it, and it was once again what won him the game there. The defense for KeeN was actually like quite solid, but we saw MyuNgSiK in a position where he had such a good unit counter, not only like the numbers that he had, but also like the quality. Do you think that he could have achieved more with that attack that he had there?
Oh, absolutely. I felt like he could have won, but it's always hard to judge his protest. Should I shoot the bunker? Do I have enough firepower to shoot the bunker? Or will it get out-repaired? And I felt the bunkers were so close to falling, and when they fall, Terran falls with them. But that was just a little bit too much. If he would have focused on the SCVs with his Colossus a little bit more, and maybe focus fire the Vikings a bit better with the Stalkers, it definitely could have been different. Like, it was, in the end, it didn't look close, but it was very close.
Yeah. So guys, of course, we have now our final. It's going to be a Terran versus Terran. MyuNgSiK is out of the tournament, and KeeN, he prevailed. And of course, we're going to hear from the winner now. So Banks and KeeN, let's hear what the Terran player has to say about his victory.
Thank you, Kaldor. KeeN, straight away we're going to go into this. What a hard-fought game. Obviously, going on 2-1, probably the toughest game we've had to deal with here. Did you expect it going into it? Were you feeling very confident to take on MyuNgSiK? Because I think a lot of people would have favoured him over you in this matchup.
전체적으로 이제 잘 아는 선수와 함께 게임을 했었는데 이렇게 결과가 나올 줄 알았었나요?
일단은 이렇게 결과가 나올 줄은 몰랐는데 어쨌든 김명식 선수가 저보다 한 단계 좀 더 높은 선수급이어서 좀 걱정은 했지만 그래도 오늘 경기가 김명식 선수보다 제가 좀 더 잘 풀렸던 것 같아요.
I didn't expect a result like this, since I think MyuNgSiK is like a little bit better player than I am because of his results overall. But I think today I was able to play better than him and perform better, so that's why I won.
And why did he play better? Was anything specially planned? What was this little secret there?
그럼 오늘 좀 더 게임을 잘 풀리고 명식 선수보다 좀 더 게임이 잘 풀린 이유가 있다면 뭐가 있을까요?
일단 제 컨디션이 일단 좋았다고 생각했는데 김명식 선수가 오늘 게임 하는 걸 보니까 좀 극단적인 운영을 하길래 첫 번째 게임부터 왜 이런 식으로 하지라는 생각 들었는데 솔직히 첫 번째 게임 끝났을 때부터 오늘 제가 이길 수 있을 거라고 생각 들었어요.
So I saw his gameplay in the first game, and he was really playing aggressive and all-inish. And after seeing that, I felt like I could win this set of games, and I felt really comfortable.
Well, it definitely worked in his favour. Now he's going to be going in to face Marine Lord in the final. What's his thoughts on this? How's he feeling going into it? Does he think this is going to be quite easy, considering so far Marine Lord's doing pretty well, but he's not had to face any Koreans yet. So does he think he's going to be the man to take it down and take a win here?
다음 상대가 이제 결승에서 머린로드랑 하시는데 그 상대에 대한 생각이 있으신가요? 하고 또 뭐 결승을 어떻게 치르실 건지.
일단 마린로드 선수에 대해서는 크게 정보는 없지만 항상 해외대 할 때마다 어느 정도까지는 정말 잘한다는 선수라고는 생각은 해요. 그리고 또 제가 해외대 첫 결승이고 국내에서도 결승 간 적이 없었는데 일단 강호는 거의 죽을 각오로 할 것 같아요.
So I didn't have the chance to really analyze Marine Lord, but I know that he's always performing pretty well in foreign tournaments. But since this is my first finals out of all foreign tournaments and also Korean tournaments, I will really do my very best, and I'm prepared to die on the stage.
Prepared to die on the stage. What a great sentiment to end with. We're going to pass it over to the guys on the analyst desk before we head into the final.
Awesome interview. Thank you, Banks. Guys, that was well, we didn't go 2-0, and you are finally with the rest of us and being wrong about your prediction for the tournament.
Why are you smiling about that? Why are you happy about that?
I don't know. I'm a terrible person. Let's talk about the games, guys. First, Terraform, right? We talked about mind games. We talked about playing against someone you know. I think a great mind game that we saw was the sneaky expansion, right? One thing I want to ask as a Protoss player, right? It's really easy to tell when a Protoss has a lot of expensive units they shouldn't be able to afford, and you kind of get tipped off to that sneaky base. Do you find it harder to tell when a Terran, especially in the earlier stages of the game, has that sneaky expansion?
Yeah, definitely. I think with Terran, it's all down to the mules, right? They kind of give that boost in income, and third CC really allows that to skyrocket the production and army size a lot more than usual. So when you go into the later stages, like mid to later stages of the game, that's when you really start to notice. But when MyuNgSiK's initial attack hit, it's not really going to affect KeeN's army at all. And what KeeN did really well is that he didn't try to defend too much on his natural. Like, he didn't give it up completely. If he did give it up completely straight away, I feel like he would have kind of maybe tipped his card a little bit. He might have given it away a little bit there. But he started to make additional bunkers, but he didn't have an army in it, which was good. He saved his army. So if he did get those bunkers up, maybe he would have tried to defend it a little bit, but he did manage to evacuate his army, get it to the high ground, and actually secure a really nice position on the top of his ramp there, which obviously, as we saw, MyuNgSiK wasn't able to break. But I think if he did that straight away, maybe MyuNgSiK would have maybe been questioning it a little bit, maybe send a hallucinated scout out and found that third CC. So really well done by by KeeN, but maybe a little bit of a misplay by MyuNgSiK. He should have realized that he was never going to break it. Daishi was like, no, he's never going to break that. And I was like, nah, there's a chance, but he knew. He's Terran, he knows. And he should have kind of backed off a bit. It would have been hard to play a macro game from there because obviously that third CC, which he didn't know about, and the kind of delay in tech that he had. But at the same time, you're not going to win there, so that's kind of the only choice you have. So a little bit sad that he tried to kind of end it there when he couldn't, but well played to KeeN for kind of going for that risky strategy and it paying off.
Yeah, day two, Daishi, game two, right? Looking on Iron Fortress, 3-gate Stargate from MyuNgSiK, right? Then we go for KeeN. He goes for this little Hellion Marine Widowmine push. Do you feel that if he had left the Widowmine back at the base and hadn't lost all those SCVs, that he could have done a little more damage with the Marines and the Hellions that got shut down?
I think I'm going to let Blink answer that one, actually.
Huh?
I'm going to let you answer that one.
Oh, he was getting a coffee.
That's why.
Yeah. Yes, game two. It's funny that he actually went for that one base build because as we saw yesterday, MyuNgSiK against Cheeses against Uthermal, he's pretty damn good, right? He lost the first game initially to Uthermal, but then after that he bounced back and he was able to defend kind of every cheese that was thrown at him. So the fact that KeeN chose to do that build, it was a little bit strange to me. It would have helped if he did have that Widowmine back in his base originally, because the Oracle probably wouldn't have done half as much damage as it did. Maybe even killed the Oracle, in fact, so that would have been great. But at the same time, when you are doing a one-base push as a Terran player, and KeeN wasn't actually able to scout his opponent. He didn't know if he had a Nexus there, so he didn't know what MyuNgSiK was doing because he scouted him last as well. So nothing really went in favor of KeeN for the first kind of initial stage of that game. So he had to take a risk, and he did send that Widowmine forwards, and it didn't go to plan. It didn't go to plan at all, and he ended up losing the game because of it.
Now, we go to the last game, Moonlight Madness. KeeN seemed to be pretty confident, especially in the early game. He was very out there. He did the little engineering bay block. He had a lot of great scouting, especially with the Reaper, and he also kept the SCV in the third base. So he had a lot of good information going into the game. Did you think that when the final engagement came down to it, that MyuNgSiK hesitated too much and he should have pushed into those bunkers?
It's a tricky one because MyuNgSiK was, even though he did go for that two-base all-in, I have no doubt in my mind that he was never originally planning that at all. And it's kind of strange to me that he actually went for the build that he went for, the Phoenix Colossus style, because we mentioned in the pre-game analysis that KeeN's doesn't really play the standard style these days. He goes for those double starports, which aren't usually too common in the current meta. So that's really good against Phoenix style. It's kind of like a blind counter. So the fact that he was going for that anyway, and then MyuNgSiK kind of went for that, it was a little bit strange there. And I think MyuNgSiK actually spotted that. He saw hey, KeeN's actually going for a third base now. He's got double starport. I'm going to be screwed going into the later stages of this game. So the only way that I can win this game is right now and go for this weird kind of all-in with Phoenix Colossus. And he did actually do pretty well. He did a lot better than I expected. He did hesitate a little bit, but at the same time, KeeN kind of had a flanking army. It wasn't shown on camera, I don't think, but he had a flanking army which he left behind a little bit, and it made it a little bit of a struggle for him as well. So there was a few hesitations from MyuNgSiK and a little bit of a misplay from KeeN as well. But overall, KeeN's strategy choice was better than MyuNgSiK's, and he kind of deserved to win there.
Yeah, agreed. Let's go ahead and take a look at the bracket. We'll see where we've gone and where we're going to with the finals just on the horizon. Again, starting off yesterday, Psionic, Marine Lord, MyuNgSiK, KeeN, they all won their matches. They moved into the semifinals today. Now we are finally at the finals, competing for $5,000 in first place. It will be Marine Lord versus KeeN. It's going to be a pretty exciting game, but let's talk about something else. Bling, you get a little upset, you know, with the Protoss hate on the panel and everywhere else, but yet, you know, he goes and gets coffee and makes you do all the legwork for this segment. You gonna stand for that?
Yeah. What is this, man? Like, and you as well, though. To be fair, like me, the only Protoss in the middle, and then look at that finals right there. 2 Terrans.
2 Terrans, yeah.
The power of Protoss, right?
The power of Protoss.
Yeah,
we can see that.
Yeah. I think we need to settle this once and for all, guys in production. Can we get a best of 3 between these two guys?
Me and Daishi?
Yeah. Yes, they said they can. So we're gonna have it awesome, and it's gonna start at
destroy.
Really?
It's gonna start at 1. That's 30 minutes from now. Yeah, yeah.
We are.
All right.
Easy.
Easy.
I'm retired, you know. I'm a retired player.
Yeah.
Are you retired?
I'm not.
You're not. All right. So if you lose, that's pretty bad, man.
Yeah, but am I gonna lose?
Well, I don't know. You're complaining about Protoss, so
we'll see.
All right. Well,
all right, so
look at that.
We actually playing?
Yeah. So there's going to be a best of 3 between Daishi and Bling. When we come back from a break, stay tuned for more Gfinity Summer Masters 2 here at EGX 2015. We'll see you soon.
Camera. They can see.
See that?
Good pace, lads. Good pace.